My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. My shadow magnified in size right here, appearing underneath the sink, and it's also on the wall over here. That's the significance of the dryer. It's called audible activity. And attention to the co-conspirator of murder, the entity that walks into the bathroom, fully aware of all the damning evidence that I capture every day and that I also capture dutifully, diligently today. Which is December 10, 2025. It's 10:07 a.m. This is impossible light activity that's not caused by ordinary artificial light, okay? These are demons that come into a bathroom to maintain surveillance and are stalking obsessively, not only because they've conspired my murder, and now they're engaging in sexual violence and harassment with knowledge of the documentation. That's speaking to a criminal purpose beyond what is the original objective, which the government is not getting away with and they're not going to commit. This is vagina monitoring that Jason Isaac Fields sponsors, that he's been profiting from. Tracy Banks, the same with Mike Lorenz, the city of Ontario that has a fake son over this library right now. Every employee is engaged in that, and they share in that sexual violence and the communication of a threat and harassment while they're monitoring genitalia in a bathroom, and do so in the engineer light that's speaking to the unlawful purpose, because this is not normal light. So this supersedes the fact that you're just in here relieving yourself. You're engaged in gang stalking. So let's view the fake son where the entity is engaged in that. This old biddy over here, monitor, okay, engaged in years of it. She's engaged in monitor as an entity that goes into the bathroom to maintain surveillance and harassment and a threat. They're conspiring your murder. Going into the restroom is an unlawful threat to your life and safety while they keep your genitalia under surveillance. The staff members go inside of the adjacent restrooms. The vagina monitors remain in position in the male restrooms where the entity's maintaining that impossible light activity. Just like this, maintaining impossible light activity. And see how my shadows reach in front of me up onto the wall? Those are vagina monitors. And the employees, Natasha, is gang stalking and vagina monitoring, and she's also engaged in a kidnapping. She's going to federal prison. That's called relevant positioning under a fake son, mentally ill behavior. And those are demons. These are the demons under the fake sun at the square, stalking in the path. Tracking my steps and stalking as an entity is proven through what is a scientific impossibility that the sun would be over the same entrance. Remember, not only is it over here, that's not on 240 North Euclid Avenue, that's engineer light, the evidence of the pattern of conduct. Parking garage filled with engineer light for the gang stalking purposes of Sarah's Regis group that's keeping my vagina under surveillance. And the entity has the fake sun over me, as I documented on Sunday at 1 o'clock, where the Ontario police are engaging in surveillance with the people of the state that go inside of restrooms and surround restrooms and pace inside and outside and engineer light, which is what all of this is, while the entity keeps a fake sun from sunrise until sunset, which I've documented at the sex offending facilitating venue, OVITT Family Community Library. Kidnapping was committed here on June 16, 2022 at 10:29 a.m. by the gang members who are stalking me, which you see on an ongoing ceaseless basis, the Ontario police with the OVITT Family Community Library, like Natasha, who was still engaging in what is conspiracy to murder me by stalking and harassing and terrorizing me inside of the bathroom. Moreover, because I'm documenting damning evidence. That's the ongoing incentive behind gang stalking when you are mentally ill and you are hostile as you are exposed for stealing from me, losing in cases that I have yet to include myself and testify in, which I will be, and I'm also going to put you in prison. This is where the airport is stalking. This is where the airport is stalking with the people. This is where the police department and the fire department are stalking with the people. This is P.O.C. And they are communicating what is, well, the fact that they engage in such acts of terrorism, system of terrorism with minor children. This is what the entity is openly exposing. Understand this is a calculated, this is what they do with impossible light. This is psychopathic pacing, where the city of Ontario is under the fake sun at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They're sharing in that pattern of conduct. This is P.O.C. It is 10:12 a.m. Vagina monitoring the sexual violence committed with minor children in furtherance of murder, which OVITT Family Community Library maintains the pattern of conduct at all times. On behalf of the city of Ontario, this is P.O.C. Vagina monitors. Sex offenders are state actors. Be clear, the government is engaged in sexual violence and incentivizes sexual violence and facilitates sexual violence while simultaneously maintaining the illusion of a criminal justice system to punish sex offenders, and the government itself is a sex offender. Alrighty, this is P.O.C. That's the entity that's engaged in what is psychopathic pacing and engineer light, which fills the library in and out of the administration door, where they're keeping my vagina under surveillance as well, stalking with the demons that come inside, maintaining position in the engineer light, the silence, Remember, the entity at 10 o'clock has the sun outside of the Ontario Airport Inn at 9:56 a.m. And I'm reminding you about Gregory that's gang stalking me, committing kidnapping as an entity, doing so while they are stalking with the Ontario Police Department. And the sun that's at the Ontario Airport Inn outside of that window of the showing the 10 freeway at Archibald Avenue in particular is not going to create any sunlight, nor is it going to be now over the back portion of the library, speaking to everybody inside of this building that is stalking. That's not sunlight. By virtue of the position of this fake sun that has nothing to do with this light source, it's totally distinct. Stalking everybody in the building. Not only that, the sun is placed at an entirely different location at the same time and for the duration of the day, such as Ontario Airport Inn. Kidnapping on June 16, 2022 with the Ontario Police Department. Engaged in ongoing vagina monitoring, as I'm documenting, as an entity, that is, engaged in Title 18 federal stalking with the intent to obstruct justice, threaten, harass, and terrorize. While they engage in keeping my vagina under surveillance, they are not keeping custody of children. And they are also going to be deported, and like the kidnappers at OVITT, they're going to prison. This is the entity that has the fake sun moving rapidly from the front to the back. This is an extraordinarily large building. So that is no small thing. That is relevant to the moving fake sun, keeping me under surveillance as I move inside of the venue from front to back. And you also know that it's still over this venue. That's what I've captured after 6 p.m. This is P.O.C. It is currently 10:14 a.m. This is the entity that's exhibiting its mental illness through stalking with light, through stalking in bathrooms, by stalking in planes and helicopters, by stalking as an entity. This is P.O.C. This is mental illness exposed. Alrighty, it is 10:14 a.m. License 7 Larry Paul. Looks like 7 Larry Paul 22 Apple 7. Or 7 Larry Paul Zebra Apple 7. This image of this license plate is the people of the state stalking on Euclid Avenue and Frank Street at 537 North Euclid at 8:57 and 9 seconds. It is uploaded to the Google Drive. It looks like a black Scion. P.O.C. License plate 9 Apple Thomas Apple 329. License plate 8 Zebra Charlie Thomas 555. License 9 Uncle Bob Frank 420. 40863 Yolanda 3. Apple 197 David 1. That may be an out-of-state plate. I'm not sure. It is captured, for reference, at 8:59 and 11 seconds. 8:59 a.m. and 11:50 seconds. So 085911. And today everything is captured on December 10, 2025. 98. License 96813, Mary 3. Omnitrans bus number 1329. Gang stalking at 9:01 and 41 seconds at 537 North Euclid Avenue under the fake sun. This is the daytime version of what you witnessed last night, the desperation of the entity that is stalking before the nation, and before the nations, actually, that's engaged in what is unprecedented acts of terrorism while conspiring the murder as a government system. They're not doing it anymore as a secret. They're not doing it in any effectual manner. They are spinning their wheels. They are not accomplishing the criminal objective, and the criminal objective is to maintain secrecy. The criminal objective is to accomplish what is murder. The ongoing criminal objective is to torment the target individual to the point to where they can't function and they're not able to, deal with life, and they second guess their own wellness and their mind state and the purpose of life. You're supposed to be in this state. The entity is you're witnessing the Not only are they stalking in engineer light, just like they were last night with the videos that I captured, stalking in the path, those aren't headlights, it's engineer light. You are a mentally ill person and you are a mentally ill population engaging in that behavioral pattern to accomplish a criminal objective against one person that you either know or don't know personally. Either or is mentally ill, and it's also psychopathic and sexually perverted, and it's also that which the entity is doing while they maintain ongoing delusional and failed witchcraft practices. The entity that is practicing this system of witchcraft is outwardly demonstrating its threat to the public and themselves, and it is the demonstration, the facts and circumstances establishing mental illness which are subject to being diagnosed. And it's also the same pattern of conduct that's used to criminally prosecute. That's what you're witnessing, the entity's mental illness, the entity's desperation. So be clear on that. It is license plate 66529, handicap. City of Ontario's gang stalking using the vehicles associated with the municipality. That is the criminal expenditure of funds on criminal activity and furtherance of murder. Again, this criminal system that the City of Ontario is fully engaged in and utilizes the resources of the City of Ontario, facilitates this violence with the people of the state, with the various departments, the airport, the fire department, American Medical Response, the Ontario Police Department. Paul Leon is not remaining in office, and this is a co-conspirator of murder. Feigning being a mayor. This is not a mayor, this is the domestic terrorist. This is an enemy of the country who is also keeping my evidence under surveillance and is demonstrating that fact while the ongoing pattern of conduct is underway by the City of Ontario in the City of Ontario. Vehicle 3045, license 1476055. License 8 Apple Zebra David 333. License Edward Henry 57 Sam 27. That's a paper plate. License 7 Xavier Kelly Robert 135. 6 Wendy Edward Uncle 251. 5 David Zebra 755. Edward Henry Zebra Yolanda 55. That's a paper plate. That's what that looks like. License 8 Wendy Frank Wendy 473. 9 Nancy Victor Thomas 341. 83245 Paul 3. 9 Victor Edward Frank 079. 93916 Larry 1. 7 Henry Nancy 563. 9 Paul Frank 627. 7 Yolanda Kelly Larry 600. 8 Uncle Paul Berry 025. Brightview, that's a third party, and also the license plate of the third party that is operating the vehicle, Brightview, 8001076. Eight Uncle Xavier Henry 481. 8 Charlie Edward Berry 425. 9 David Yolanda George 604. 9 Mary Indiana George 408. 5 Zebra 046 Kelly 2. 6 Wendy Indiana Wendy 245. 8 Xavier David 14 Henry, I believe. Substantially similar, or 14 8 also. This is documented at 090554, so 9:05 and 54 seconds. At Euclid and E Street, where the entity is keeping the fake sun, at 9:05 a.m. This is at the Chevron at the ARCO, where the fake sun is over me, for example, on November 2nd at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. San Bernardino County is gang stalking. Remember, the entity is engaged in targeting. Very obvious. Everyone is aware because you're aware of the environment. They're also targeting regarding evidence that they are keeping under surveillance. That is, the demon-possessed who are mentally ill engage in more criminal conduct because they are hostile to their engagement in the criminal pattern of conduct that was documented. This is what is the explanation, the Title 18 federal stalking by San Bernardino County that has committed several kidnappings and criminal defamation in order to do so, helping the terrorist organization, the Ontario Police, and the people of the state, Jason Isaac Fields, Eric Corey Spencer, Tracy Banks, they're all going to federal prison. This is the explanation regarding the mental illness, and this is the having been subject to this mentally ill system and the demon-possessed and their sick and twisted minds as they engage in their pattern of conduct. This is what is behind the absence of any coincidence. Under the fake sun, you're stalking me, and you're also stalking as San Bernardino County, who is heavily documented, for example, at Fontana Lewis Library, as I'm documenting the evidence from March 23rd, 2022, March 22nd, 2022, March 21st, 2022, where I'm documenting the city of Pomona, the city of Fontana, the city of Ontario, and the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct as I seamlessly attach that P.O.C. San Bernardino County has committed kidnapping with the intent to obstruct justice, and those that are a part of that, which is a statewide system. Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, Ontario Police Department, acts of criminal summoning like what Tracy Banks committed on May 29, 2025 with the Ontario Police Department, who have shown impunity and ongoing blatant stalking. Very, very foolish as with regard to a prosecution in court. Okay, so engaging in psychopathic pacing on Euclid Avenue in the middle of the night for over an hour is not going to help them in court, but these are the mentally ill who are engaged in what is the public crash out that you're witnessing, and they're going to prison for this. The entity stalking me at the OVITT Family Community Library is already established by virtue of that's happening outside of the library and that which is happening inside of the library where the entity shares that pattern of conduct, including with San Bernardino County, under the fake sun. That remains until the end of the day, including sunset. That is what is behind San Bernardino County stalking at Euclid and E Street at what is 9:05 a.m., where I've documented the entity having that same fake sun at that intersection over me and the City of Ontario maintaining criminal surveillance. License plate 8 Mary Nancy Zebra 023. SoCal Gas is gang stalking, 8041582. License 1660605, that is City of Ontario Municipalities. License 9 Mary Nancy Apple 349. License 7 Paul George Sam 419. License 1409429. That's the City of Ontario. 26455 Uncle 1. License 9 Paul Frank 627. Pacing. Which is what they are doing as a group. This is the same demonic spirit that is operating through a population of people who are all stalking together, and they're all tied together with the fake sun that remains over me. They're all tied together with the engineer light that is not explained away by their headlights or even your hazard lights or your brake lights like the demons of the Ontario Police committed last night. Mental illness is not funny, but the desperation, I must admit the desperation of the demon-possessed that conspired to murder me and have committed murder of many, many others, it is entertaining. All right, the mental illness is literally blatant for diagnosis and criminal prosecution. 9 Sam Frank Edward 516. License 6 Nancy Yolanda David 346. License 9 Thomas Indiana Henry 520. License 8 George Jerry 605.
License 14261 George 4. License 9 Paul Jerry Zebra George 94. License 72051 Robert 3. 6 Mary 0 Jerry 334. Ontario Veterinary Hospital is gang stalking by facilitating venue, committed battery with the Chucky doll in the city of Ontario. The entity was stalking by plane, helicopter, engineer light. Their shadows were all over the building and the parking lot. It's the same pattern of conduct where the fake sun is over me and the entity is maintaining that criminal pattern of conduct. The Ontario Veterinary Hospital is engaging in domestic terrorism and furtherance of murder while maintaining a veterinary hospital. It's public corruption, it's P.O.C. And that specific venue, which is relevant to federal prison for those that are dealing with and having compassion on animals, yet they conspire the murder of American citizens with impunity, including engaging in criminal summoning and battery as an entity that is mentally ill. That are also a threat to children and animals, including while they maintain veterinary hospitals. This is the pattern of conduct that proves that. Not you holding a puppy dog and taking a picture of it. That's exactly what Satan does and how Satan wants you to imagine them and see them, witness them. All right, the criminal conduct and the malice of the Ontario Veterinary Hospital is already on the record, and it's a matter of what is scientific evidence as well. License 7 Uncle Charlie Apple 237. License plate 64911 Thomas 3. License 9 Henry Frank Yolanda 993. 9 Paul Yolanda Edward 545, I believe. 7 Apple Victor Larry 866. 7 Wendy, I believe that is a Q. 7 Wendy Queen Mary 293. 7 Paul Yolanda Nancy 577. 9 Edward Jerry Yolanda 082. 9 Frank Kelly Victor 760. Sam Paul Indiana David 3 Robert. 7 Robert Yolanda Nancy 683. 9 Uncle Yolanda Mary 518. 96608 Apple 4. 8 Charlie Zebra Robert 647. 7 Thomas Larry David 884. 7 Larry Jerry Xavier 011. 9 Larry Mary Kelly 843. 7 Edward Mary Jerry 549. Gang stalking at the United Chiropractic Health Center, the population aiding in criminal surveillance that's underway inside of that chiropractic center that I don't have to walk in to prosecute them outside. The fake sun is over me, and that is a facilitating venue engaged in criminal surveillance, both while it is in operation and the demons are wearing scrubs inside of that venue, maintaining a corrupt business, and also while it is closed and the entity is maintaining engineered light, sex offenders are molesting with impossible light while I'm on the grounds of that facilitating venue, which I also documented last night. The entity uses the property and is in relevant position on the grounds of that property in the same manner while the business is open and closed. And there is no bar to being prosecuted as an entity based on your business hours because the entity is not ceasing to engage in the pattern of conduct, limiting it to business hours. The threat to the American citizen's life is not limited to the business hours. License 8 Edward Jerry 945 and license 8 Paul 43683. A demon is engaged in surveillance, wearing scrubs, engaging in what is gang stalking while the population amplifies audible activity. Those are the demons pasted on Euclid Avenue as I'm walking by the United Chiropractic Center, and the fake sun is over me at that location, and the entity is also doing so, proving what is targeting because I'm at that same location at 2 in the afternoon, at 4 in the afternoon, and the fake sun is over that same chiropractic center. That's full of demons that wear scrubs. Okay, that are doing tremendous harm, by the way, in the medical field, gang stalking, medical professionals, so-called. They're not professionals. They're barbarians. They're demons, and they engage in this targeting system while apparently engaged in what is maintaining the United Chiropractic Health Center. It could be called the OVITT Family Community Library. It is the P.O.C. It's the same public corruption, the same criminal presence, the same criminal light activity, the same criminal audible activity, while the demons inside and outside of that United Chiropractic Center are engaging in targeting me in furtherance of murder. And it is the pattern of conduct while a demon wearing the scrubs in license plate, and I captured it, in license plate, operating the vehicle with license plate. Let's see. That is license 9 Wendy 1 Sam 163, I believe. This is the Hyundai that's parked inside the gates of the venue. Yeah, that's the Hyundai. The last 3 characters being 163. The white male appears to be a white male, bald head, dark navy blue scrubs with black glasses on, is engaged in surveillance, and surveillance is proven by the fake sun over me while I'm at that venue facing it at 9:27 and 29 seconds, at which point this demon gets out of the vehicle, which is activity creation, but it also happens to be the vantage point where I could see him stalking by sitting in his vehicle. I want to be clear, being on the property where you work, being inside of your vehicle that you are leasing or have paid for in cash, or got when you had sex with your pimp, however you've achieved what is possession of that property, I will prosecute you. It is no bar to being prosecuted for gang stalking. And this is what the entity relies on. Oh, I'm in my car. I'm on the property where I work, and you are under the fake sun amongst the government maintaining criminal surveillance through your criminal presence in the path in a specific environment which controls, and I will prosecute you. The fact that you're in the medical field is me speaking to what is being removed from that medical field. A bar. By virtue of engaging in what is psychological torture, conspiracy to murder, you are unfit to be in the medical field. And you apply that same analysis to the legal field, to law enforcement, to access to children, to being a parent, to being in a position of custody, etc. Okay? License plate. Six Wendy Mary David 333. 7 Henry George Wendy 454. 60536 Barry 4. 8 Uncle Wendy Nancy 647. 9 Mary Jerry George 105. 9 Edward Thomas Thomas 910. 5 Henry Uncle Robert 824. 6 Charlie Victor Jerry 824. 7 Henry Paul Frank 865. 8 Sam 0 Robert 387. 6 Paul Zebra Sam 724. 9 Paul Barry Apple 474. 8 Zebra Indiana Victor 221. 9 David Queen Barry 664. OVITT Family Community Library, the fake sun is over me at 9:31 a.m. Remember, I'm capturing the fake sun over me at this same venue at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, last Sunday, and the Sunday before that it was at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The entity has the fake sun in the same position over me, while the population of vagina monitors that you saw sitting in the middle of the library on video, where I show, and then walk to the back of the library, and the fake sun is facing over the library, over me, while facing University of La Verne, College of Law, facing the Ontario City Hall, which is a facilitating venue where the entity is conspiring my murder by virtue of that crime scene, which I show everyone that the state is stalking me in furtherance of murder, while that fake sun remains over my head, and I walk around and show you all the co-conspirators of murder. The same thing at nightfall, while the entity keeps objects over me like a fake moon and molests with that which is engineered light, not normally occurring light, while you are targeting in furtherance of murder. And by the way, the fake sun is over the back of the library as in the video at 10:07 a.m. and I'm capturing during daylight savings time, 12:51 p.m., where it's over that same building that I'm facing in that video that you listened to. At 10:07 a.m., 12:51 p.m., that fake sun is over me at the same Ontario City Hall. Okay, this is the entity that is engaging in that, and it's over the OVITT Family Community Library at 9:31 a.m. and the Ontario City Hall shares the same plot of property, if you will, the Ontario Civic Center at 12:51 p.m. That in and of itself is speaking to the pattern of conduct where everyone is surrounded with that evidence, and those demons inside of the OVITT Family Community Library committed kidnapping, and the demon-possessed administration are engaged in psychopathic pacing while they provide timestamps accessing that door with their key cards, where they're pacing in and out, monitoring, opening and closing the door, not even walking in and out, just to engage in what is stalking with noise, harassment. There are also demons that replicate that sound, that audible activity, while they are engaged in what is monitoring the evidence, seeking to avoid being captured, being seen by me. These are psychopaths. And it's all demonic activity. So this is tangible evidence proving it, but understand you're dealing with the supernatural, and I've also proven that by virtue of the fake sun, by virtue of amplified audible activity. That's LAPD stalking me inside of my office at 1810 North Alvarado Street, where these demons in the administration office are going to prison for kidnapping by virtue of what LAPD did, proving what they're doing here. But nonetheless, as I'm inside of my office and LAPD is flying in circles at a distance over the mountains, over the hillside, I can't hear that inside of my office naturally. And I'm also not maintaining some schedule where I know that they're going to be in relevant position to me with helicopter. Those are demons engaging in demonic behaviors, which are supernatural. And remember, what does that appear on the surface when you don't have evidence? That's supposed to be paranoid schizophrenia. That's the entity that's manufacturing mental illness while they practice a demonic system of targeting. And inside of conference room number 1, the demons that are engaging in monitoring, for which they're going to be diagnosed and they're going to prison because they've already committed kidnapping. And the mentally ill don't know how to do anything else other than serve their own demise while they targeted somebody that's here to prosecute them. They are engaging in what is harassment while an inexplicable boom sounds inside of this conference room number 1, where they're keeping me under surveillance, which is audible noise under the fake sun that's speaking to what is deliberate, not coincidental, while I point out damning evidence, such as what you just listened to me state, that it's manufacturing mental illness on the surface where you're not aware of a whole comprehensive targeting system. And where you're engaged in manufacturing mental illness, when you are in fact mentally ill, you're not just going to prison, you're going to the ward area, you're going to where they restrain the people that consume their feces. You're going to the area in prison where you can be subject to what are a battery of tests and ongoing mental examinations. That's where you're going. And this is what the state of California is engaging in, while actual mental illness is proven by the demons of the OVITT Family Community Library. Demons like Abigail and John and Alexander and Kathy and Natasha, who are engaged in psychopathic pacing, just to name a few, while they're monitoring somebody with noise and inexplicable light under objects like a fake sun. While they're doing so, while they're keeping the evidence proving that it's not going to work and you're still doing it, you're delusional. You are providing the legitimate medical professionals with hard evidence, facts, and circumstances, not manufacturing it, not making it up, not relying on what is a corrupt system to support that defamation. It's going to serve to diagnose you. The entity, I'm covering everyone at the same time, while they share that pattern of conduct. It's literally a template from place to place to place while they practice that same P.O.C. The mentally ill at the OVITT Family Community Library are engaging in that, while a population is stalking me to and from that library. And they're doing so on behalf of the gang members of the Ontario Police Department. The entity that's engaging in kidnapping together, okay? And that's what's behind license 6 Paul Zebra Sam 724, stalking in the path under a fake sun that's over the OVITT Family Community Library at 9:30 in the morning, and it's still there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's still there after 5 a.m. as I documented during daylight savings time. And I've been documenting targeting by this sex offending facilitating venue that's engaged in, entrenched in evidence of vagina monitoring, sex offenders who are mentally ill, co-conspirators of murder, delusional psychopaths who engage in what are documented crash outs that's not going to help them as a matter of evidence, and did so with regard to what is thinking that you as a psychopath are both going to consume feces and win my money by gang stalking me in a court case that's a whole criminal act committed by the government and the gang stalkers themselves. This gang violence is serving for what is putting terrorists like Jason Fields in federal prison where he belongs. And this is a communicated threat by terrorists like Jason Fields were he to ever come into my presence as a feces consumer that gang stalked me for years with this population and conspired my murder, engaged in what is practicing witchcraft, which is under the law going to be relevant with regard to malice, with regard to conspiring my murder. And it's also evidence of Jason Fields' mental illness. Engaged in all of the elaborate schemes to target me. Jason Fields is going to prison. He's going to prison for longer. If this is a communication of a threat by the government is the one that gave this demon a position in the military, the federal government. And if this terrorist ever comes near me, the federal government is going to be prosecuted for it, for not controlling your own terrorists who have been surrounded with evidence. Okay, he's not going to be prosecuted by himself. This is a criminal conduct that the government is going to be prosecuted for. The government is being prosecuted for. And you are an entire psychopath to gang stalk at a distance and then come into my presence as though there will be any sort of exchange. It is nothing other than audible activity and furtherance of murdering me while you're still gang stalking. Even though it's not going to come to pass, your whole criminal objective in the first place, you've been caught. That's why you're not getting my money, but you're still targeting, which is evidence of your mental illness. And if Jason Fields ever comes in my presence, like his sex partner, his long-term sex partner, Tracy Banks has repeatedly, he's going to prison for even longer. And those are the facts. This is the entity that's engaged in this pattern of conduct at 215 E.C. Street, where a population are stalking in psychopathic and very demented manners, such as with light, with audible activity, with sensational activity. And this is the entity that's not only engaged in conspiracy to murder, but they are engaging in that while they are obsessed with me. They're obsessed with the one that they were not able to overwhelm with their witchcraft. That's also relevant to what is mental illness. Okay, that's how that is translating under federal law. And this is proven with tangible evidence. You're still stalking, and the evidence of you stalking is on the internet. No sane person, as a department, for example, or as a population, or as one that wants to keep custody of their children, wants to have an argument in court because you will be losing custody, would engage in that. Why are you? But for the fact that you are delusional, very sick, and more consumed with stalking someone that has already prosecuted you at the gate than you are with the interest that you will unpersuasively communicate in a court that's not going to entertain your nonsense. It's not going to entertain it. You've already been prosecuted. But this is the entity that's nonetheless engaging in that. License 48367 Xavier 2. Stalking me also with impossible light under the fake sun that's over this OVITT Family Community Library, where inside psychopaths of the administration, every employee, and the gang stalking patrons are engaging in surveillance. Psychopathic, corporate mental illness is exposed while they're stalking as a population inside of the building. And they do so by keeping their focus on the books that they're holding and the DVDs that they're staring at and the laptops and the computers that they're looking at, and they're all stalking. And that illusion is removed. Everyone is looking at bare bones mental illness, criminal conduct, witchcraft that failed, and Satan that's being humiliated and prosecuted. Okay, license 7ZXL296, 7 Kelly Yolanda Robert 599, 9 David Queen Bob 664. The fake sun is at the entrance at 9:32 a.m. I captured the fake sun at the entrance and at the University of Laverne College of Law and the City of Hall End at 10:07 a.m. And I remind you that I'm at distinctly different locations, such as the Ontario Airport and at 1801 East G Street, 9:56 a.m. That fake sun is at that at that window facing the 10 freeway. That's not over the entrance. That's not reflecting off of any of these demons' windshields. That's not creating any sort of sunlight under the entrance of the OVITT Family Community Library. That's not going to be seen over the City Hall or over the Page One Cafe end of the Ontario OVITT Family Community Library. That's the removal of all of the illusion. It's supposed to be sunlight and the sun, and it's not that. When I break that illusion apart for you and show you what is a maintaining light source, the identification of the crime scene, where the entity is engaged in targeting as a population, and that entity is also proven as mentally ill by doing so. Moreover, proven severely mentally ill, even more so, because they're caught and they're engaging in it while they are caught. This is relevant to judgments that have been rendered in my favor while the entity is gang stalking me. This is relevant to criminal acts committed by the system kidnapping me. defaming my character while the entity has been gang stalking me the entire time. And this is relevant to the entity that's going to federal prison, that's going to be deported, that's going to be losing custody of minor children. All of this is relevant while they're engaging in that. This is P.O.C. It's 12:54 p.m. at 215 E.C. Street, where the entity is engaging in surveillance through the corrupt practices of the OVITT Family Community Library. This is P.O.C. There are many more license plates. They're uploaded to the Google.
Next people coming to check in soon, okay?
Okay, thank you. That is P.O.C. That's the employees that are engaged in gang stalking with the patrons that are monitoring by coming into the study room that I'm inside of as they're crossing path obsessively. They're doing so and coming in, getting conference rooms under the fake sun, engaging in what is surveillance with the state. P.O.C. It is currently 12:55 p.m. Alrighty, what you will see in the images as I walk out of the conference room, the entity is stalking. Alexander is the heavy-set male with the book cart. He's stalking with noise and light. They're monitoring as a population inside of the library. So as I walk toward the elevator, this is the entity that's tracking my steps. You saw that as I show you the fake sun at the entrance and then at the back. And this is also relevant to the sex offender that is on surveillance cameras at 12:59 p.m. where you will see me getting off the elevator. And a sex offender is intentionally communicating a threat, wanting me to see them go into the male restroom where they engage in vagina monitoring and communicating a threat. Those are the same sex offenders that do that with minor children as well. Those are the same sex offenders that are employed temporarily by the Ontario Police Department. This is an entity that shares in that sexual violence and the appetite to communicate, yeah, I'm going in to monitor your vagina, and I'm going to do so because I don't like that you're, this is everything that they communicate when the entity is doing that. They're tracking my steps. So you are stalking, and you're stalking with the intention that I see you go into the male restroom, where on the opposite side of this wall, a sex offender, a predator, is engaged in what is the act of terrorism, the perpetual sex offense, which is committed in furtherance of murder. They're doing that on behalf of Natasha, Abigail, John, Alexander, Brianna Morales. You have the entity that is gang stalking. Sean Thrasher is being prosecuted for everything. He's a director. He's engaged in the pattern of conduct, so that goes without saying. I'm just naming the demons that are here while they communicate that threat. What do sex offenders that will not be maintaining custody of children or access to them, what do they do? How do they behave when they are exposed? Psychopathic disorders, they engage, and this is the demon possessed. The demon possessed engage in more of that violence. Okay, so inside of the restroom on the opposite side of this wall is a demon that's aware of everything concerning my nudity, concerning my genitalia, and the entity also has already demonstrated that the tracking with the fake sun, they know who you are and what you're doing. Moreover, you're going to prosecute a government with tangible evidence. The government is stalking. The government is stalking vicariously. The government is stalking in a psychopathic and deranged manner by a population of demons inside of the library who want you, when they know that you're documenting, to see them walk right in front of you into the male restroom where they keep your vagina under surveillance, communicating a threat by Sean Thrasher. And that's noted. He's going to prison. He already engaged in kidnapping. That's fine. This is the impunity that engages in that. And what I want you to understand is that these are predators whom you should not be crying for. Don't feel bad for them, because it's going to be very bad. Very bad, very excruciating. Worse than that saying where it's like a car wreck that it's like horrible, but you can't look away. You're not going to want to watch what's happening to them. This is the wicked. So these are demons that inspire them to harm themselves. These are demons that engage in that, and they are harming as an entity in the same way that they are targeting one person. As an entity, they are serving their own demise, that entire entity. But that is what is behind that. That's what the entity is doing as I'm walking downstairs and sex offenders are tracking my steps. This is P.O.C. It's 1:03 p.m. and this is ongoing bathroom monitoring. Alrighty, and you will see what is the fake sun that is still over the same entrance that it was that I captured at 9 in the morning. It's 1:11 p.m. and these are again a plethora of vagina monitors positioning themselves with regard to my movement in the library. John is stalking by walking downstairs after I capture the fake sun, walking back in the entrance. The entity is intentionally stalking, wanting you to see them gang stalking with minor children. Those are the same ones they're going to be engaging. This is a suicidal population, so this is a lot of prosecutorial suicidal conduct as well. But the entity is engaged in what is self-harm, harming itself, acting in its own
to its own detriment. There's the entity's engaged in blatant conduct and has been analyzed with regard to all the ways in which the law is going to prosecute that and break that apart. And the entity is engaging in that with knowledge. They keep the evidence under surveillance, and they intentionally engage in you seeing them gang stalking with children. The entity chose to do that under the 1:11 p.m. fake sun. The entity is filled with a bunch of sex offenders on the first floor, while John is stalking by walking downstairs in the same way that Alexander is stalking as I walk toward that elevator, tracking my steps. The entity is engaging in this while the kidnapper with the bald spot and the dreads, I don't know what he's trying to reverse manifest with that, but he's kidnapping on June 16, 2022. He's in perfect alignment through the book stacks, walking. He's the one that's on video, and I pointed out to him, and he is stalking while he is in the path, tracking my steps, a psychopath that keeps their back to you while they're stalking you. He's engaged in monitoring with the Ontario Police under the 10:29 a.m. fake sun during daylight savings time. It is 1:11 p.m. He is going to prison. He's still stalking and engaged in vagina monitoring. This is the entity that's engaging in this conduct together and communicating that threat while they go into the restrooms all around as just hostile future inmates and violent predators that engage in them. This is speaking to the threat that the demon-possessed are to children, to the public, and to the overall well-being. Do you have any disinfectant wipes, Brianna? Just one, that's fine. This is the entity that's engaging in that together as one. To engage in gang violence centering it around someone's genitalia is mentally ill behavior. It's predatory, it's unprecedented, and it's also that which is so sick and disgusting. You would have to be aware of the evidence. Someone would have to prove that, and that is exactly what I've done. But this is the entity that's engaging in that while blurting out harmful and harassing things such as kill yourself. This is what the overweight minion engaged in, what is yelling outside that he hits girls when he's not going to bust a grape. But he should hit a treadmill, though. This is the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct while they're engaging in that P.O.C. in that specific environment. That's the entity that's engaging in that sort of communication of that threat by virtue of such harassers in the environment under the fake sun, hostile to your documenting them. These are the same ones that share in that criminal P.O.C. All the ways in which you're looking at the demon-possessed are creatively harassing and terrorizing somebody. They're going to prison. This is what it is. This is speaking to what is terrorism. And an American citizen lacking evidence is living in a bubble, is being defamed, is being stalked, is being sexually violated by a sick population. And this sick population is going to be sliced with regard to all the ways in which they pose a threat to the public, to children, to the public regarding public transportation and commercial planes like U.S. demonstrated in Kentucky, like law enforcement like LAPD demonstrated running over the people of the state in the middle of the street. When you're monitoring, you know exactly what that's murder. Like the Ontario police are doing while they're gang stalking me with the people of the state, with minor children, while they share in this criminal pattern of conduct with cowards who are gang stalking a female that they're all intimidated by, and they're also obsessed with my vagina. It's sickening conduct. While they do so with children pacing all around, this is an entity that is indeed mentally ill, and this is the affects, by the way, of demon possession. Just so that you know. It is currently 1:15 p.m. This is P.O.C. Everybody in the library is engaged in focusing on one person, and it's the person whose voice you're listening to. And this is the humiliation and the federal prosecution of the demon-possessed entity, the state of California. P.O.C. I just want to document, you have Alex. Alex committed kidnapping on June 16, 2022.
He is engaged in vagina monitoring, and this is sexual violence and furtherance of murder. So he is still conspiring my murder, still targeting me in furtherance of murder, still stalking me, which is a violent threat, especially while you're stalking me inside of a building as an entity with the city police with whom he committed kidnapping upon malicious assertions regarding my character. And that's evidence that is published on the internet that Alex is keeping under surveillance. Alex is a gang stalking employee at OVITT Family Community Library. This is bathroom monitoring at 7:51 a.m. The female follows me right into the bathroom. The entity is maintaining criminal presence throughout the library so that everyone is maintaining relevant positioning. So nowhere that I'm going is there an absence of a person to be there in the engineer light stalking with noise. The entity, while this sex offender is engaged in presence in the bathroom, engaged in criminal surveillance, the entity is sounding what is audible activity. Whether the speaker picks it up or not, it sounds like the elevator inside of the bathroom, which is impossible audible activity. Alex is one of many sex offenders that are here engaging in that. I documented the others. The entity is engaging in what is stalking with noise. The employees using all manner of noise creation. I showed you the fake sun at 2:50 p.m. at the entrance. I showed you the fake sun at the back end of the library. Again, the same back end of the library where I was showing you at 10:07 a.m. The fake sun is at the back end of the library at that same location at 2:46 p.m. This is the entity that's engaged in what is stalking me and doing so in furtherance of its own federal prosecution, its own deportation, its own loss of custody of children, and doing so while the nation is witnessing the historical prosecution of a government for terrorism. And that terrorism includes egregious and demented sex acts, including vagina monitoring, which is a reference in the vernacular regarding what is referred to under the laws that's going to be addressed, the perpetual sex offense. And it's a sex act committed in violation of the privacy of an American citizen by an entity, not just the sex offender that's stalking in the bathroom. While the entity is engaged in what is failed and delusional witchcraft tactics, this is sexual violence by the mentally ill. And the mentally ill make up the government that incentivize sexual violence, that is stalking in places that are unheard of, such as the bathroom. All right, so this is a predator that's following me into the bathroom. This is a homosexual predator, and this is what Mike Lorenz is going to federal prison for. He is still conspiring my murder. He is still stalking me. He is still stalking as a department. He is stalking as a city, while that entity is acting vicariously on behalf of that agency that you see stalking me, including last night. Well, the demon possession is proven through all the world to witness, while brake lights are supposedly causing what is the projection of that structure of that bus stop, that bus station structure to appear projected on that wall and then vacillate north up that wall in the north direction. That's impossible light activity in the color of what are the brake lights on that Ontario Police Department vehicle where that agency is stalking. They also do so by helicopter, which there's a wealth of evidence showing that. That's what's coming into the bathroom. That's what's coming into the bathroom while the entity maintains ongoing all manner of noise, including that which is asinine, such as the sound of the elevator. Okay, this is demonic activity. The demon possessed who are mentally ill like to keep my vagina under surveillance, and this is exactly why the mentally ill, like Jason Isaac Fields, who refuses to accept no as the answer, it remains no, and he's going to federal prison for his refusal to respect my right to refuse to have any involvement with someone that has had all manner of sex with Tracy Banks, a mother figure who has conspired my murder. Both of them are delusional psychopaths and are engaged in this vagina monitoring while it remains underway. Because you will not unilaterally remove yourself from the system of terrorism where you are the one that's been profiting from it and you're still engaging in it. In fact, it is a psychopath's method of trying to force you to acknowledge them. That's not going to happen either, but I will be acknowledging in court. I will be acknowledging the criminal conduct that Jason Isaac Fields shares criminal engagement in, is criminally responsible for, criminally profited from it, and also facilitated it. And that's whether or not he's still having anal sex and group sex with Tracy Banks or not. There will never be any sort of relationship other than the fact that he is an adversary. In court, I will be testifying and prosecuting. That's it. And that's because of the ongoing terrorism that I'm subject to in a bathroom, which the city of Ontario shares. Obsession with my vagina. Okay? Those are the mentally ill that are stalking at the bus stop, the mentally ill that are stalking in the bathroom. I just want to be clear on that. And these are the mentally ill that will not be, and that have clearly communicated the fact that they have no intentions and they have no desire to keep custody of their children. Just like the Ontario Police have no desire to have any defense as an agency and each kidnapper and stalker in court regarding anything other than blatant stalking and kidnapping. They don't have any intention to represent and admit anything else. They have fully conceded that. While the entity is engaged in this pattern of conduct, it's 7:56 p.m. at the OVITT Family Community Library, where the entity kept the fake sun for you to see that object 2:49 p.m. at the same entrance, where I'm capturing it in the morning, upon both before entry at 9:35, and also as I enter at the venue at 10:02 a.m. There's nothing other than stalking going on in the bathroom, and the mentally ill, violent sex offenders are embarrassed and hostile, and psychopaths. What you need to understand, what is relevant to the national security threat, is that serial killers, mass murderers, terrorists will commit more mass murders, more serial killings, and more acts of terrorism as they are hostile to being exposed. That's what you're getting when the entity is engaging what is in defiance of common sense and your own interests in court. You're the one losing your kids. You're the one going to prison. You're the one walking away with a criminal record if you walk away, okay? But you're the one that's going to be plagued with that criminal record that you're never getting expunged. It's never going to leave your record, ever, okay? So, but the entity is engaged in what is obsession with me. Understand that this mental illness prefaces every criminal act that the entity is engaging in ceaselessly. The mental illness is that which is relevant to obsession, delusion. You're harming yourself when you're being prosecuted. The ordinary target individual is subject to this mental illness, obsession, ongoing stalking until they accomplish murder. This is P.O.C. It's 7:58 p.m. at the OVITT Family Community Library, a violent sex offender.